All right, what I got here is a fiberglass Cobra R hood. It goes on a 95 Cobra. We're going to be painting it red. This is an extremely high quality hood. It's not going to require that much. Well, it's not going to require any type of repair work. It's really good and straight now. I'm going to run a DA. Remember guys, the DA stands for dual action. I'm going to run a DA over the whole thing. This happens to be 220 grit sandpaper. That's kind of an oddball. Normally I go, 80, 180, 320. But I want something to cut through this. This is gel coat, and it's kind of hard. I just kind of want to cut down faster, and then I'm going to switch over. I'm going to switch over to 320. So I'm going to set up the camera, probably on a time lapse, and you can watch me sand it. Where there's contours in there, I'm going to sand that by hand. But I think this will be pretty good video for you guys to watch, and hopefully I'll get a picture of the car when it's all together. A pretty sharp car. Gotta concentrate on keeping this DA flat. All right, that was the 220, and you can see the shiny spots on the edges. I don't want to cut through that gel coat, so I got a piece of 320 grit by hand. And when I say by hand, I'm talking about folding it 3 times like we do. And if I meant block it by hand, then I would put a block under this. But this is what I refer to as straight up hand sanding. I've got it. I just wrap my little pinky around it. And I'm going to do it that way. I'm going to let my hand wrap around the contours here. Like I said, there was no body work done to this. I'm just trying to get rid of any of the orange peel that was in it. We talked about what orange peel is. And any little nibs or pieces of trash that might have been in that gel coat. Now, you hear me say this is a fiberglass hood. You may think this may cause you to itch. A lot of people think the fiberglass, they think about itching. Well, this gel coat won't cause you to itch. It's what this gel coat's sealing up that would cause you to itch, the fiberglass strands. And the reason they itch is because they actually cut you. They put little micro fine cuts in your skin. That's what causes you to itch. Now, I'm taking special care to get the edges. And that's, believe it or not, that's where most of your chips come from. You bump into the edge of something. And I want that paint stuck good. And I'm going to shoot a coat of sealer over this first, but I want all those edges sanded really nice. Okay, I sanded the edges by hand. Now I've switched over to the 320. And I've put a foam inner pad in between there. And what that does, it gives me a little flex, so it rolls over these edges a little bit better. This is not for doing body work at all. You would never want to use this for body work. But for this, it's fine. This is going to keep me from accidentally cutting little moon shapes in there and stuff. So that's what we're going to do. The reason you wouldn't want to use this for body work is because, see, it will roll over and follow the contours, which is the opposite of what you're wanting to do. When you're trying to straighten a dent, you want it to stay straight, and this would just roll over it. But in this case, it's letting it roll over it because there's no body work. It's just gonna follow and get into all these little odd places, and without cutting what would end up being a bullseye that we talked about in like last week's assignment. Okay, now I'm going to do something that I don't normally do. I'm going to wrap this 320. I'm going to wrap this red scuff pad in this 320. And it's just going to give me a little cushion. And I'm going to go around and hand sand any of the spots that may look a little shiny to me. The scuff pad's just giving me a little sponge. Okay. Again, you'd never do this doing body work. You would never try and straighten something like this. But I'm not trying to straighten something. This hood's already straight. I'm just trying to get all the shine off of it. We want to make sure it's stuck good, and that just gives it a little. It just lets it flow into the areas that it needs to. And now, I'm going to wipe the whole thing down with just some water-based type cleaner. You could easily use soap and water for this. That's basically what this is. And this thing's going to get wiped down a couple more times probably. Well, it is before it gets painted. So this is basically so I can get a good look at it. See if there's anything that needs to be touched up. Needs to be sanded a little bit more. Okay, got all the shine off of it. It's looking good. Now, I'll show you a few things. That gel coat, you can see that right there. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's where it's starting to go through the gel coat, and we don't want to do that. I mean, that's totally fine because we're going to be sealing this thing. But I went around the back, and when I had that sandpaper wrapped around that scuff pad, what it lets me do is it lets me knock off the little sharp points. See that little dark edge right there? Maybe you can. That lets me sand that because it was a sharp line, and that takes that off. That's one of the reasons why I wrapped that foam around it. So it looks good now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm not going to bore you with it, but I'm going to flip this thing over and sand the underside of it. Okay, it's flipped over. I'm not going to bore you, but I'm basically going to do the same thing under here that I did on top. I'm going to do a lot more with a scuff pad and by hand because of all these little shapes and everything. I can DA this in here, and then I'll have to do the rest of it by hand. Like I said, it's the same process, same grit. Like I said, I'm trying to keep these videos short so you guys will at least watch them. So I'm going to shut the camera off and get sanding on that. Well, I have sanded underneath. I didn't film it because it was boring. It took longer to get this sanded than it did to do the top side. Now, I'm going to tape this up. This is coated with like zinc, or it's got some kind of coating on it. This shouldn't rust. And the reason I'm going to do that is because the striker on this thing is going to hit this. Every time you shut it, it's going to hit it, and then it would scar and chip it all up. And it'll look a lot nicer as if I tape it up and leave it this aluminum looking color. So that's what I'm going to do there. Back here, I'm going to tape these grates up. Two reasons: so they stay black for one, and keep trash from blowing out. I'm going to try my best to get these holes taped up as best I can. It's not going to be easy, but I'm going to tape these up again to keep trash from blowing out. I'm going to put some bolts in the holes so we don't load these threads up. So we don't load those threads up with paint. My goal is I'm going to try and figure out a way where I can paint this thing all at one time. What I mean is the top and the bottom. But I'll figure that out when I get it in the booth. Okay guys, I've decided that the best way for me to do this is just do this. Paint the bottom of it, let it dry, and then tomorrow or the next day, flip it over and do the top. Because I'm not going to be able to I'm not gonna be able to get the quality job I want trying to do it all at one time. So basically all I'm gonna do right now is I am gonna take this up. I'm gonna wipe this down. I'm not gonna film it. And I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna shoot a coat of sealer, and I'm gonna paint this red, and I'm gonna clear it. To keep this video short, this is gonna be part 1. I'm not gonna include that. The next video, I will film me wiping the top side of it down, and you'll see here. I'll strap the GoPro on, and I will film the whole thing, painting it, clearing it, and everything. But like I said, to keep it short, that's what I'm gonna do. Hope you're learning something, guys. And pay attention, I'm gonna ask a question or two about this video in next week's assignment.